top of his hermitage. When he realized what had happened, he called out, "People, help me down, help me down." They helped him to get down. He stood in front of the commander of the faithful, and said, "Are you a prophet sent by God?" "No," he replied. "Then are you an angel who is close to God?" he asked. "No," was the answer. "Then who are you?" asked the hermit. "I am the testamentary trustee of the Apostle of God, Muhammad b. Abd Allah, the seal of the prophets. May God bless him and his family," he replied. "Stretch out your hand," said the hermit, "so that I may submit to God, the blessed and exalted, at your hands." The commander of the faithful, stretched out his hand and told him, "Make the twofold testimony." He said, "I testify that there is no God but God alone without any partner. I testify that Muhammad is his servant and his apostle. I testify that you are the testamentary trustee of the Apostle of God, the one with most right among the people to authority after him." The commander of the faithful, made him understand the conditions of being a Muslim and then asked him, "What is it that has prompted you to enter Islam after your long residence in this hermitage in opposition to it?" "I will tell you, commander of the faithful," he said. "This hermitage was built to seek out the one who would remove that rock and then water would come from underneath it. Scholars before me died and they did not attain that knowledge, but God, the Mighty and High, has provided me with it. We find in one of our books and a prose writer of our scholars that in this land there is a spring with a rock over it. No one knows its place except a prophet or the testamentary trustee of a prophet. He must be a friend of God who calls men to truth, whose sign is the knowledge of the place of this rock and his ability to remove it. When I saw you do that, I realized what we had been waiting for. The object of desire had been attained. Today I am a Muslim converted at your hands, a believer in your right and your servant." When he heard that, the commander of the faithful, wept until his beard became moist with tears. He said, "Praise be to God, by whom I have not been forgotten. Praise be to God in whose books I have been mentioned." Then he summoned the people and told them, "Listen to what your brother Muslim says." They listened to his words. Then they gave much praise to God and thanks for the blessing that he had bestowed upon them in giving them knowledge of the right of the commander of the faithful, Then they went on and the hermit went before him amid a group of his followers until he met the Syrians. The hermit was among a group of those who were martyred there. He, peace be upon him, carried out the prayer over him. He buried him and sought much forgiveness for him. Whenever he was mentioned, Ali would say, "That was my servant." In this report there are several kinds of miracles. One of them is knowledge of the unknown, a second is the strength by which normal human capabilities were transcended, and another is the distinction of him from other men through the confirmation of the message about him in the first books of God. This is validated by the words of God, the Exalted. That is their example in the Torah and their example in the Gospels. Al-Sayyid Ismail b. Muhammad al-Himyari speaks of the same thing in his glorious Golden Ode. During his journey he went by night after the evening prayer to Karbala, in a procession, until he came to one who devoted himself to God on a piece of raised ground. He made his camp on inhospitable land. Oh, wilderness, it is not a place where he meets a living soul other than the wild animals and the balding, white-haired man, i.e. Ali. He approaches and cries out at it. The holy man looks down as he stands, like the defender looks down over his bow from a watchtower. "Is there water that can be attained near the position which you have settled at?" He answers, "There is nothing to drink, except at a distance of 6 miles, and the water I have with me here between the sandy hill and the vast desert." He turns the reins towards the flat ground. He uncovers a smooth rock that shines like golden leaf paste. "For camels," he says, "turn it around. If you turn it around, you will see. You will not see if it is not turned around." They came together to remove it. It is impossible for them. It is a difficult, impossible task that cannot be performed. When it had weakened them, he stretched a hand towards it, and when the conqueror comes it is conquered. It was as if it was a ball of fallen cotton in a skein, which he pushed in a playground. He gave them sweet, delicious water to drink from under it, which was better than the most delicious, the sweetest. Then when they had all drank, he put it back and went away. Its position is left alone. It cannot be approached. Ibn Maymun added these words concerning that. The signs for the monk were a miraculous secret. Therein he believed in the noble-born testamentary trustee of authority Wasi. He died a martyr, truthful in his statement of support, most noble of monks who have become fearful of God. I mean that the son of Fatima is the testamentary trustee of authority. Whoever declares their belief in his outstanding merit and his illustrious actions does not lie. He is a man both of whose sides are descended from Shem, without any father from Ham, nor a father of a father. He is one who does not flee, and in battle only the striking of his sword dyed red with blood can be. Scene 4. Some of Imam Ali's words about the Battle of Siffin. During the Battle of Siffin, Amir al-Mu'minin heard some of his men abusing the Syrians. Then he said, I dislike you starting to abuse them, but if you describe their deeds and recount their situations, that would be a better mode of speaking and a more convincing way of arguing. Instead of abusing them, you should say, O Allah, save our blood and their blood, produce reconciliation between us and them, and lead them out of their misguidance so that he who is ignorant of the truth may know it, and he who inclines towards rebellion and revolt may turn away from it. 5. When in Siffin the men of Muawiyah overpowered the men of Amir al-Mu'minin, and occupied the bank of river Euphrates and prevented them from taking its water, Amir al-Mu'minin said, They are asking you morsels of battle. So, either you remain in ignominy and the lowest position or drench your swords with blood and quench your thirst with water. Real death is in the life of subjugation, while real life is in dying as subjugators. Beware, Muawiyah is leading a small group of insurgents and has kept them in dark about the true facts, with the result that they have made their bosoms the targets of death. Amir al-Mu'minin had not reached Siffin when Muawiyah posted 40,000 men on the bank of the river to close the way to the watering place, so that none except the Syrians could take the water. When Amir al-Mu'minin's force alighted there, they found that there was no watering place except this one for them to take water. If there was one, it was difficult to reach there by crossing high hillocks. Amir al-Mu'minin sent Saysha ibn Suhan al-Abdi to Muawiyah with the request to raise the control over water. Muawiyah refused. On this side, Amir al-Mu'minin's army was troubled by thirst. When Amir al-Mu'minin noticed this position, he said, Get up and secure water by dint of sword. Consequently, these thirsty persons drew their swords out of sheaths, put arrows in their bows, and dispersing Muawiyah's men went right down into the river and then hit these guards away and occupied the watering place themselves. Now, Amir al-Mu'minin's men also desired that just as Muawiyah had put restriction on water by occupation of the watering place, the same treatment should be accorded to him and his men, and no Syrian should be allowed water, and every one of them should be made to die of thirst. But Amir al-Mu'minin said, Do you want to take the same brutal step which these Syrians had taken? Never prevent anyone from water. Whoever wants to drink may drink, and whoever wants to take away may take away. Consequently, despite occupation of the river by Amir al-Mu'minin's water. 6. When Imam Ali sent an expedition of 3,000 soldiers under Makil ibn Qays Riyahi against the Syrians, he issued the following instructions. Always keep the fear of Allah in your mind. Remember that you have to meet him one day. Let the fear of Allah guide you in all your activities against man, and your end will be towards him and towards none else. Do not fight against anybody unless he wishes to fight against you. During winters, travel in the mornings, and give your army a rest in the afternoons. Do rush through journeys unless absolutely necessary. Travel by easy stages, and do not tire out your army during the journey. Do not travel during the early part of the evening, because Allah has meant this to be time for rest and comfort and not for march and exertion. Make use of these hours to give rest to your body and mind. When you have rested, then begin your march with trust and faith in Allah in the early hours of the morning. When you face your enemy, stand in the midst of your army, never alone.